Oh, well, hi there. Welcome back to my channel. I guess it's time. It's time for a care collab. Today, I would like to talk about a group of orchids that I'm very fond of. I might even say it's one of my favorites. Don't tell that to the Miltoniopsis. But first things first, a care collab is, as the name suggests, a collaboration. And I was invited by Ninja Orchids, Nina, to join this one on Tolumnias. And I want to first acknowledge all the other channels that are involved, because this is a big collab. So we have Ninja Orchids, which I already mentioned. Then we have Plants and Other Things, Emmy's Orchids, What's Up Orchids, Lynn Smith, Honeybees and Orchids, Adyasha's Orchid Diaries, Michelle's Live on Repeat, Cloud Forest Vibes, Orchids and More, and Art and Orchids. And we all want to share with the world how we grow Tolumnias in our respective environments. Okay, so I'll just give you a quick overview over my growth space. And as you can see, the Tolumnias are either hanging in these shells or are nailed to the wall, hanging there. And I personally really like them this way because Tolumnias like a lot of sun or a lot of light, and I can use them to almost shade plants underneath them. So as you can see here, for example, I have this Bulbophyllum plumatum, and on top of it there's a Tolumnia, which is going to shade the Bulbophyllum a little bit, preventing it from getting sunburned. Same here with the Venus flytrap, which is in full bloom. It's also partially shaded by the Tolumnias. This one was the very first Tolumnia I got. It's Tolumnia scandens. It's a species, and I got it in March 2020. And look at this. So I'll show you a picture of what it used to look like. And now this is turning into an insane mess. This plant, from what I noticed, really likes a lot of humidity, more so than the other plants. It can take light even better than the others. I feel like the light requirement for this plant is much higher than for the others, but it also wants more moisture. And as you can see here, some of the leaves are already drying out. And so yeah, this is telling me, please water me now. And in summer, especially this one, wants to be sprayed basically every day. And I will just follow the motto right there, ask and you shall receive. If you're a shriveled plant, you get water in this household. And so what I do is I have my little spray thingy, and I will just really drench the roots that you can see here. And it will drip down a little bit, but that's fine. It has a little reservoir there to catch any excess water, but you can see the roots are turning green, and that's a good thing. So that's a good sign. And this plant really needs to be sprayed like this, ideally once a day, or maybe every other day when it's winter. But in summer, sometimes I even water this twice. If it's a really hot and dry day, I will have to water it in the morning and at night. But I think this really only applies to the Tolumnia scandens, because the more complex hybrids are more tolerant towards a drier environment. So I have some Tolumnias that I got from eBay in these shells, and I just want to focus on this plant to kind of explain the growth patterns that Tolumnias have. So when you look at them, you might think these are monopodial orchids, but that's not true. These plants used to be called Oncidium. I guess I would consider them distant relatives of other oncidium-like plants, like these Tolumnias. However, these plants have a completely different growth pattern. They are extremely compact growers. So if you see this plant compared to my hand, these are very, very tiny plants that do not require a lot of space at all. And as you can see here in typical sympodial growth pattern, you have older bulbs here, or older fans, and then here are newer ones that are growing. And in my hands, these plants are basically constant growers. They do kind of slow down a little bit during winter, but since I grow them under artificial light, they will constantly put out new growth, new roots, and pretty much as soon as the growth matures, these plants will produce a flower spike, which is very nice. And here you can also see that some of these older growths will just go through a natural senescence. The plant will just mobilize all the energy that's left in here and just invest it into new growths. Currently I have 2 Tolumnias in bloom. This one is the Tolumnia brown corona. The flowers are already fading, so this is definitely kind of on its last leg. It has been in bloom for 2 months now already, but what you can see here, the flower spike is branching. And this is the beauty of Tolumnias, because their flowers are very long lasting. They have ridiculous colors, shapes, patterns, and everything. They're easy to grow and they're extremely floriferous, with branching spikes and everything. This one is the sad remnants of a very nice flower, actually. I don't really have an ID for this plant, but it flowered in a very vividly red color, which is super nice because the majority of my collection is young plants, and most of these again are cattleyas, which don't typically flower red, so at least the species are more pink. So, and this one's also kind of pink right now, but yeah, it used to be red. I'll just show pictures of what it used to look like before. Last but not least, I want to show this plant, which it's a primary hybrid. It's Tolumnia henekenii by triquetrum. As you can see, there's already a spent spike here. This is a plant that I received from Orchids and More. I hauled it in a previous video. Again, the flower spike ended up branching after the flowers were spent, and now we have another flowers here, and I really like them. The camera does not do them justice. This color here is kind of a more purplish hue than the wine red that I see on camera. Let's see, maybe I can fix that in editing. But yeah, I really like this one. So Tolumnias in general are a group of orchids that are native to the Caribbean islands. Tolumnias typically grow in very exposed sites, on rock cliffs, on tree branches where they are blasted by sunlight. This is reflected in the home growing conditions as well, because here they need a lot of light. I have had Tolumnias bloom now for on and off for several months now. I have several plants, as you saw, and so far there's always been one in bloom. Unfortunately, right now most of the flowers are fading. Yes, there are some secondary branches, but right now I feel like Tolumnia season is over in my grow space, and now the Miltoniopsis are taking over with all their spikes. As for the conditions under my care, my Tolumnias, as you saw, are hanging on the wall or in shells, and this is not how I grew them from the beginning. When I first got my Tolumnias, they were more or less bare rooted in basket pots, and so that's how I kept them. And this was a big mistake because my conditions here are extremely dry. So I have humidity basically always below 40, sometimes even kind of below 20. And this is not enough for Tolumnias to be bare root, or for any orchid to be mounted actually, or bare rooted. So I saw them shrivel up very quickly, so I had to change the media. And ultimately I changed to chunky bark, which is still well draining and airy enough for them to have their roots oxygenated, but it still kind of holds on to the water just long enough for them to really replenish their stores. As you saw, the Tolumnias do have somewhat of a succulent structure. They have these kind of fleshy leaves, but they do not have real pseudobulbs like a Cattleya would to withstand long periods of drought. For me, really the big game changer was artificial lights. I grow my Tolumnias in Germany in a small apartment, and I think Tolumnias are ideal for a small apartment. As you saw, Tolumnias are extremely compact growers, and therefore they do not require a lot of space. You can have a relatively big collection of Tolumnias just in a shelf, and this is then even facilitated more by the addition of artificial light. When I first got them, it was March, so light levels were slowly increasing. And then towards summer, I had the first Tolumnia in bloom. I was in love right away. So intense, the color so intense and everything. But this is not really sustainable in Germany without the summer sun. Unless you have, I guess, a southern exposure window where you do get somewhat direct sun all throughout the year, you really do need artificial lights, in my opinion, to grow Tolumnia successfully and have them bloom reliably. As soon as I started introducing artificial light, to which they adapted very quickly, I really saw the plants progress. In my opinion, Tolumnias need to have somewhat of a sunburned look. That's when you know that they're happy. So when my Tolumnias are just green, I know they're not going to flower. Every time a Tolumnia flowers in my collection, it has at least some anthocyanin spots, or the leaves turn completely purple or red. This is when I know the plants get the light they need to thrive. Okay, so with all of that said, thank you, Nina, for inviting me to join the Collab. And thank you to Plants and Other Things, Emmy's Orchids, What's Up Orchids, Lynn Smith, Honeybees and Orchids, Adyasha's Orchid Diaries, Michelle's Life on Repeat, Cloud Forest Vibes, Orchids and More, and Art and Orchids to join the Collab. I encourage everyone to check out the other channels, to look at the other videos, and maybe you'll find someone who grows Tolumnias under your conditions to see how you can really improve your experience with them. As I said, I find them very easygoing once you know a few little tricks on how to handle them, and I wish you lots of success growing them. They're a very rewarding group of orchids, relatively inexpensive compared to other houseplants you could get, and they're just a joy. So with that said, thanks a lot again. See you next time on my channel. Bye! Whoops, gypsy. Oh dang, I really need new glasses.